So, welcome to our first podcast. I'm Kasim, the owner of Social Instinct. We basically build brands for influencers, and I thought that kind of nicely brings us into our first guest, who is Vivienne, who also works a lot with influencers as well. So, people who don't really know you, who are you, and kind of what is it that you do?
So, I am mainly a fashion and wedding photographer.
Yeah.
I work with quite a few influencers and a lot of reality TV stars / celebrities on different shoots. So yeah, photographer, that's who I am.
Perfect. So I suppose kind of going into it a little bit into you as a person. So how did you actually get into photography?
So I started around 10 years ago. I've got a lot of friends who are in the modelling industry, who are models themselves, or even some makeup artist friends. And I actually at the time just wanted a hobby. I thought, other than I can't remember what job I was doing at the time actually, but other than kind of going to the gym, I didn't really have any hobbies. And I thought, I'm going to buy a camera, and that's going to be my hobby. That's what I'm going to do. I started taking a couple of pictures of my model friends. And as soon as they got their pictures kind of back from me, they'd put them up on Instagram. Wasn't a thing back then, but Facebook definitely was. And they'd put them up on Facebook, and they'd get so many comments and people saying, "Oh, these are amazing photos. Who did them?" And they'd always tag me in them, and then I'd start getting messages through saying how much for you to take my picture. Okay. And I was like, this is amazing. I can make some money from this, from my little new hobby. So thankfully, it didn't take me kind of too long to get into it, but I think that was just more from the kind of my friends and people that I knew. Yeah. It's not that hard to take a good picture, of a model. It's a pretty easy job.
And then how did you kind of think, this is something I actually want to do as kind of my career, opposed to kind of a hobby? Where did that transition happen?
I think it's just the fact that I really enjoyed it, and I've always been told that you won't really have a job that you enjoy. Jobs are just about going out to make money, to survive, to pay bills, and I just thought, no, that can't be right. There's definitely some people out there that love their jobs. These actors that are working on big Hollywood movies, they must get paid a lovely amount, and they must love their job. Yeah. So I've kind of strive to find something that I really love doing, and I think just as soon as I started making £50 per shoot, I just thought, I'm going to really try at this now, and I want this to be a full-time job.
Yeah. So what kind of came first into that kind of, you said that you did a lot of your friends' stuff, but then did it move this into wedding photography and then fashion, or how did that work?
So I started doing model portfolios, which basically models often have to pay a photographer just to get these standard shots that then they can then show a client kind of what they can look like. So models often pay photographers for just these basic shots. So I started doing those, and then it was a friend of a friend was getting married in Harrogate, and they said, please would you take my pictures? It's in a couple of weeks, and it was like a last minute kind of wedding. And I said, well, I've never done one before. Like, I'm really sorry if they come out really badly. But it went really well. The day went really well, and I really enjoyed it. I just thought, I'm going to start trying to pursue the wedding photography as well, which is fab. Wedding photography is fab, but it's hard work and long days.
Very demanding. I can
yes, some brides can be very demanding.
Have you ever had anybody who just sees your work and goes, oh my god, this isn't what I wanted?
No, thankfully I've never had that. Everybody has been very happy with their photos, and I think just before people book you, I think you need to point out what your style of photography is, because some people just look at photographers and think, oh, they're going to take pictures, and they don't realise that some people might take a dark, moodier, scenic picture, whereas I might be kind of really in close and bright and colourful. So I think people need to realise that photographers work really differently. You know, some can tell you exactly how to pose and what to do, and some just like to be behind the scenes, snapping away, getting documentary style.
I suppose from the outside in, people kind of see photographers are just, oh, it's easy. I just take a picture. I got a camera, click a button, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
What's it really like as a photographer, I guess? And the kind of the hard parts around it, like you said, weddings, they can't be easy. You've got people walking around, you've got kids running around, and all the rest of it, and then you've got the bride and groom who's meant to be the focal point. How hard is it actually being a photographer?
Weddings is definitely, I mean, you don't sit down, you don't get a second, you don't dare, like, you know, pop to the bathroom for bathroom break, just in case you miss, you miss a certain moment, you know, where the bride's dad sees her for the first time and cries. Can you imagine, just on a bathroom break? It can be quite the word.
Challenging.
Yes, quite a challenging job, weddings can be, yeah.
And then how's this year been? Because obviously with the reduction of weddings, kind of personally to you, has it been obviously difficult? Because obviously people are like cancelling weddings left, right and centre, moving into next year, reductions of kind of sizes of weddings.
Yeah, but the wedding industry's taken it pretty hard, haven't they? I, thankfully, have been quite lucky in the fact that brides have changed their dates and those dates have been free, you know, the following year. Yeah. Some people have even moved them 2 years back. Okay. You know, the problem is now that I'm losing possible other bookings because of all these dates. Yeah. So I've probably lost, you know, theoretically, if you say, oh, I've got these weddings next year now, I haven't lost any money because I haven't had to turn anyone away. However, I'm going to start having to turn people away, that people are getting engaged now, because they're, you know, my dates are pretty much fully booked for the next couple of years with just this year's weddings. But yeah, I mean, it must be hard for these brides and grooms, you know, however many suppliers you've got, there might be, you know, 10 to 50 suppliers, you know, someone, your venue or your marquee, you've got your music, your food, and they're having to call up all these suppliers and say, please, are you free on this other date? Yeah. I've just tried to make it as easy as possible for people, you know, yes, I'm free, I'll just move your date in the diary, you know, there's nothing else changes. Whereas I've heard some suppliers have been a bit hard work, you know, maybe trying to charge them more, and I just think, God, you know, people are having it, everyone's having it hard. Hard. So I've just tried to be as accommodating as possible.
Perfect. So obviously that's kind of the wedding side, and then you've got the other side of it. So you have a fashion influencer side. Mm-hmm. So how did you actually get into that in respect of like working with these kind of celebrities or influencers, you want to call them?
So I don't remember who said this to me, but I remember it quite clearly. They said, use your contacts, Viv. They said, you know, I don't think I particularly knew them personally, but it was someone came off Love Island, and a friend of a friend knew her very well. And I just asked the question. I said, look, just ask her if she wants any free pictures. You know, she's just come off the TV. Yeah. It's going to be good for me if she wants any. She said yes, and I remember doing that kind of first celebrity shoot, and everyone was like, wow, how did you get that? And it wasn't anything, you know, crazy. It was just me asking the question. Yeah. And I think some people are too shy to do that nowadays. And I think if it's going to benefited us both at the time. She needed pictures, and you know, for me it was like free advertising because you know, as soon as a celebrity or a high-profile person puts up your images and tags you, it's free advertising, basically.
I think a lot of people kind of miss that as well, especially when people are starting up their own brands and so forth, is using their actual own network. Yeah. I mean, kind of even myself, I have families who know people who are in the influencer marketing world, and it's kind of like just tapping into them as much as possible.
Yeah, you've got friends that know people, just ask the question, you know, the worst they can say is no.
Exactly. And then what was the kind of reaction from the first shoot then? Did you kind of get other people then turning around going, oh my God, I love the photos?
Yeah, exactly. I remember then getting a client who I still work with. Yeah. And they work with lots of high profile people. They do makeup and fashion, and I do all their shoots for them. But if I hadn't had that initial celebrity pictures on my, you know, on my website, on my Instagram, I don't think they would have hired me.
Okay.
And I think, you know, once you've started into that influencer celebrity zone, let's call it, you know, other celebrities then seem to feel more comfortable with you. Like, oh, well, she's worked with this person and this person, so she must be good. So I'll have her doing mine. Whereas, yeah, I think it'd be different if I hadn't worked with anyone.
So do you get people kind of approaching you from the business perspective, or is it directly the influencer themselves who kind of go, oh, I want you to do some shoots with me, I'm about to do a campaign, or I need some shots for X, Y, and Z? Or is it kind of the businesses that go, oh, we're doing a shoot with X?
It's a little bit of both, I think. Yeah, I mean, it was quite recently that, you know, a high-profile person just messaged me on Instagram, just said, I love your work, you know, can we organise a photo shoot? So it's a bit of both. I guess it's mainly businesses in the past that have come to me, but now I think with kind of friends of these celebrities, you know, they see my work and they come to me directly as well. So it's a bit of both now.
Okay. And then I guess who's your kind of like favourite to work with? I guess you've worked with quite a few now. Who's the person who you would say?
I've got a couple of favourites, I think.
Yeah, because obviously we don't want them to see it and be like, I thought I was your favourite.
I've got lots of favourites, everyone. Kerry Katona is so fun to work with. She's just always high energy. She can chat a lot. It's always a fun day with her. And then Georgia Steele, she was on Love Island.
Yep.
She's one of my favourites just because she's so sweet. Last time we did a photo shoot, she baked me a banana bread and brought it. Like, I baked you a banana bread. All because she'd, on a story the other day, the day before the shoot, she was baking. I was like, oh, that looks delicious. So she baked me all one.
That's nice. I suppose it's like people see these people from like reality TV and kind of have that vision in their mind of what they're going to be like.
Yeah.
Like, what's it like on the other side of like when you actually get to know them? Are they kind of like what you expect them first? Do they have that kind of celebrity? Yeah, I only want the blue M&M style. Or is it a kind of they're actually just normal people?
Yeah, everybody's just themselves, just normal people. However, you can see some of them put on a bit of a persona.
Yeah.
If there's a video camera in front of them, you know, it's different with stills because you're not putting anything across on video. But yeah, definitely when I've had some things filmed at the same time as taking photos, some of them can put on a persona.
Okay. And then do you feel, have you had anybody who's been a bit difficult? You don't need to name names, but have you had anybody who just thinks, I'm the celebrity, I'm right, whatever you're telling me to do, I'm not going to do it, I know what's right type of vibe?
Yes.
Okay, as I said before, no names, but some examples would be good.
There might have been once or twice when somebody was at least 4 hours late. I mean, I was clock watching because I was very bored after maybe an hour or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone being kind of all right in respect of kind of when you do the shoots, did they kind of take your direction or?
Yes, I feel like sometimes these personalities can be quite overpowering, but I try to still give direction, you know, whenever I can. There's most people actually have an idea in their head of what they want, and but I find if people start to try and direct me, and I don't have the same vision in my head as they do, it's just not going to work out as well. So I feel like I try to put it's hard, isn't it, what you're imagining in your head, what a shot should look like.
Yeah.
And then you try and describe it to someone. I think it usually helps, you know, showing them something and say, look, I think we should go for something like this. But as soon as you're on the same kind of wavelength, then, you know, shots start to look good.
Has there anybody who you've been kind of a bit nervous about meeting for the first time because you kind of seen them before or kind of expect them to be a certain way, and you've kind of felt like, oh, I'm a little bit, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this person?
Yes and no. Like, in a good way, I've been starstruck.
Okay.
I felt starstruck. But then it goes back to the question that everybody's just a normal person.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get chatting to them, then, you know, you kind of feel a bit more at ease. I don't think there's anyone that I've felt kind of, oh, I thought you were this way and you were another way. I do try and meet people just in general life as well, not have a what's the word? Not have a view. Don't make judgment. I try not to make judgment on people.
And then kind of obviously looking at the whole social media aspect of things, because a lot of people probably hopefully watching this will be saying, if I was to use an influencer, is it going to help my business and my profile? Do you feel that kind of it's done that and it's kind of achieved what you wanted from originally, that, like you said before, going back to that first person approaching them, and now that you've kind of 18,000 plus followers on Instagram, do you feel that has only happened because of that influencers?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I can't go back and do it all differently and see where I would be. But yes, I mean, even now some people book me and you know, they'll have had a little look on my Instagram or my website and like, oh, you know, you've worked with this person, or you know, I've been to weddings before and they'll introduce the brides, you know, the bride and groom and their families will introduce me to the guests and be like, this is Vivienne, our photographer, and she's worked with this person, that person, this person. It 1,000,000% helps. You know, even like I said before, if they you know, put up pictures and tag me, you know, sometimes they just do a little shout out for me, or they put a picture up of on the stories that I've taken, and you can actually see the difference, you know, on your Instagram and your algorithms, and when I'm working with someone who's high profile, you can see the numbers go up, you know, people watching my story and then the likes, etc. So it definitely works.
Have you got anybody in mind who you'd want to work with?
Ooh, good question. The only person that's kind of sprung to mind is Maura Higgins.
Okay.
And she was on Love Island.
Yeah.
And I feel like people will be looking at me like, I can't think of anyone else. But I think she's stunning. She's just so stunning. I'd love to photograph her.
And is that because of kind of her, is it more the look or just the kind of attitude that she had on the show as well? Because she was
I did enjoy her attitude
profile,
on the show. Yes, yeah. So it would be interesting to meet her and see if she's kind of that way in real life. But no, I just think she's absolutely stunning, and I think I'd love to take a picture.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so a lot of people probably asked this question to you, and we were talking about this just before we started as well. What would you say your kind of viewpoint is on retouching? So is it something that you agree? I know there's obviously different kind of lines behind it, but some people might ask for a bit more enhancing, I guess, over photos than others. So what's your kind of viewpoint on that?
It's a very interesting question, mainly because, and I think a lot of photographers will agree with me, if I just take an image, that would only be half my job done.
Yeah.
I feel like half my job is taking the image and then half of it is the retouching behind it. It's almost not a perfect photo if it hasn't been retouched as well. Saying this, I almost don't agree on either too much retouching or people making themselves look completely different. I think there's maybe levels that, you know, with all these filters, with the bunny ears and all, you know, that's kind of fun. But when people are normal people looking at Instagram thinking, oh, this girl is absolutely perfect. You know, no one is.
Yeah.
I think for my job, it's kind of taking out spots, you know, making the hair look perfect. I try not to completely change the way people look. And I think maybe a lot of, well, I can't say a lot of, but I'm guessing quite a few high profile people might spend their time, you know, taking 100 photos of themselves, picking the best one, and then spending time on their phone editing it to make it look even better. And I think maybe young girls especially looking at social media, it's going to make them feel inferior, or like, you know, I want to look this way, why can't I look that way? And that's quite, you know, that's quite sad. And then saying this, I actually do the same thing, but as I said, I try to keep mine more natural.
Yeah.
I would also like to start posting more before and after edited photos. The problem with that is, would people allow me to do that?
I suppose you can ask their permission, though.
Yes, yeah, I can ask their permission. And there are some celebrities that say to me, please, like, don't retouch me, or, you know, maybe just sharpen my eyes or brighten my eyes, you know, just something very minor. There are quite a few people that I work with that do ask me not to do much work, because they don't want, I guess, to show their followers, you know, a fake version of themselves. They want to be real.
Yeah, I suppose the flip side of that, do you have people who then do turn around and say, I want you to make me this certain way?
Yes, I do. Yeah, quite a few people, like, I've had the strangest requests, again, not naming names, but someone said, can you make my forehead smaller?
Interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to make it smaller.
And then what was kind of your response to that? Do you actually go, yeah? Or do you just go, I can't do that?
Do you know what? If I didn't do it myself, then they would do it themselves.
Okay.
You know, everyone's got these apps on their phones now, and they do it to themselves before they post a picture, and it's just a strange, you know, everyone's got the thing about themselves that they don't like, but I mean, that's to me, it's just a strange one.
I suppose a kind of another question that just came to mind then is, when you work with brands, do they then turn you to say to do some retouching in that certain way, and how does that work in that dynamics?
Yeah, that's true. To be fair, you know, everyone does it. It's not just celebrities. It's big brands that use retouches, and it's going back to what I said before. It's like half a job is done when you've just taken the picture. It then goes to retouchers to make the image absolutely perfect. But sometimes it might not be kind of retouching the way someone looks. It might be that there's something in the background, you know, take that plug socket out, or remove that sign on the wall that's distracting in the background. But it's scary that, you know, probably 99% of images on Instagram have been doctored in some sort of way. I just think I applaud the influencers now that are being more real on Instagram. You know, they're actually posting pictures where they haven't edited, and they'll say this, you know, it's a bad photo of themselves, you know, they might have double chin or something, and they'll post it just to be like, look, this is the
you get
the real me.
The Instagram versus reality, that whole stretch mark, and the way people pose that, and all the rest of it, and I think that's a lot more. It's real, it's empowering to people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think as well, they kind of just go, that's just women that do that, but in reality it's actually men as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have people who try to look in a certain way, but in reality they don't. And so I suppose, have you had any kind of males as well that you kind of that you've worked with and who kind of have that similar attitude on their kind of perspective, or they're kind of a bit more relaxed?
Most males I've worked with are more relaxed, but I agree with you that they do it as well.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask. Have you ever edited your photos?
Have I ever edited my? I mean, I think everyone's thrown a filter on their face, but that's as far as I've probably gone myself.
Okay,
I'm not good at Photoshop, so I wouldn't be able to even do it. Even if I wanted to look like 6 foot tall and all the rest of it, so definitely not. So I think kind of to wrap it up then. So if somebody was to kind of get into this world of photography, of then obviously looking to influencers to kind of build their own brand, what would you kind of say or recommend with them?
Work as much as you can, do as many shoots as you can. You know, you might be working with someone who's got 1,000 followers, but then you might get to the photo shoot and the makeup artist might have 10,000 followers. You know, you never know who you're going to bump into, and I think the best thing to do is just get yourself out there, work as much as you can, and then use your contacts. You know, you might go to a shoot, like I say, the makeup artist might know loads of people. You say to the makeup artist, oh, I loved working with you, you know, can we do another shoot together? Do you know any models that, you know, and that's, you know, it's not being cheeky, but it's you know, use your network, definitely. Yeah.
And then what kind of like software or skills do you think people need to kind of get into if they want to become a photographer, I guess?
With the kind of post-production?
Either or.
I think lighting, you know, lighting is just the biggest thing that you can learn. And if you start with natural light, even people who take selfies know to walk towards a window, standing window light, but not harsh sunlight. So, you know, learn natural light, how it affects someone's face, you know, just turning around in a window. And then once you've kind of conquered the natural light, move on to adding studio lights, flash, etc. And then you can start to play around a bit. With post-production, I mean, everyone, for me, needs to learn Photoshop. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy what you can do on Photoshop. And yeah, sometimes I just edit my friends' photos for fun, just to show them like what you can do, and they're actually astounded by what you can do on Photoshop. But a lot of people kind of ask me sometimes, you know, can you help me with this on Photoshop or that? And you can YouTube or Google so many things nowadays. You know, you get stuck on something, just give it a Google, put it in YouTube, and you can learn so much.
Yeah. I suppose the kind of last question I was just kind of thinking about is from what I said earlier. A lot of people kind of just think a photographer sits there, takes a picture, and kind of that's it. But you've kind of said then obviously there's post-production. What's the kind of time involved in that? So you've obviously got a one-day shoot probably, but then what's the actual time and reality like for post?
So it really depends on what you're taking pictures of.
Yeah.
For example, lipstick or beauty shoot, I do quite a lot of eyelash shoots. You know, you've got to be really close into people's faces.
Mm-hmm.
They all want their skin to look absolutely perfect. You know, if there's little blemishes, spots, and that takes a long while. I'd say that's probably, that probably takes the most amount of time. Beauty work, fashion photography is I usually like to add a flash. I just think it makes it look more edgy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you add a flash, it kind of flashes out their skin, and everything looks a bit more, what's the word?
Natural, I don't know.
No, really? Opposite to natural. It looks a bit more enhanced and flawless when you add a flash. So, you know, those shots might be a bit quicker. However, then you might have a client that says, oh, you know, that jumper's creased. Can you take the crease out?
Oh, okay.
So it can, it all depends. On average, I can spend maybe 10 minutes to sometimes up towards an hour on one image.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you so much for your time. For people that want to kind of find you and might maybe want to know a bit more about you, what's your Instagram kind of tag?
It's at Vivienne Edge Photography, and it's spelled Vivienne, and then Edge Photography.
Perfect, and I'm guessing they can find you on Google as well?
Yes, and my website is vivienneedgephotography.co.uk.
Perfect, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And good luck with 2021.